Getting beat on the ground right now.
Well, in fact, he only picked up delegates yesterday in Wyoming, and we didn't even play there because it was a closed system, and we didn't want to waste our money and deal with party bosses. Actually, the dialogue and the narrative of this campaign isn't focusing on the real issue. The real issue is there's not going to be a second ballot. As your colleague just said, there is many paths to 1237 for Donald Trump between now and middle of June, not July. And we are working all of those paths.
But they both include, as he pointed out, wins in Indiana and, of course, big win in California.
Well, not necessarily Indiana. It does include California, but it also includes New Jersey, which is also on the 7th of June, and we're probably going to do very well. The states that we've just finished, this was supposed to be the time when Cruz was ahead. We finished with the South. We finished with the rigged systems that have closed caucuses that don't have voters. I mean, the profiles are now starting to show of the appeal of the two candidates. And if you just look at the states that Cruz won, the states that Trump won, what do you see? With Cruz, he wins the reddest of red states, where you have voterless primaries, where the rules favor, organization versus appeal to the voters. Trump wins in states that we have to win the presidency, have appeal to independents and Republicans.
You and Mr. Trump keep talking about the rigged system, but so far Donald Trump has won about 37% of the vote, and he's gotten 48% of the delegates. You could argue that the system's rigged in his favor.
No. When I say rigged system, I'm talking about closed system that keeps the voters from participating. Because what this election has shown is that when voters participate, Donald Trump wins. When the bosses participate, Donald Trump's interests are not there because he's the outsider. He's the one making the case to change the banking system, change the economy, change the political system so that the people's interests are to get represented, not the establishment.
You've also said that the Cruz campaign is breaking the rules and said many times that they're doing that you're going to be filing protests. What specific evidence do you have that they're breaking the rules, and when will you be filing these protests?
Well, we have to file protests within certain periods of time, and the legal cases are being put together. But that is the point. The Cruz campaign, even in the closed systems like Colorado, like Missouri, they're not playing by their own rules. They're because they've had to muscle things. And we'll be filing protests. Missouri, we're going to be filing protests. Colorado, we're going to be filing protests. And you saw it in Colorado last week where the voters were left out of the process, a groundswell of support against the system. But the point is not the rules of the National Committee, the system that keeps the voters from participating in the political process.
But you knew the rules going in.
And we're playing by them, and we're winning. And that's the point. And there's only going to be one ballot.
And going forward, if you go to Cleveland, if you do not get the 1,237 before the first ballot, I want to get a sense from you on what you think is fair game and try to win over these delegates. There's actually a law in the books in Ohio, a bribery law, that says no person shall, before, during, or after any primary, convention, or election, give, lend, offer, procure, or promise to give, lend, or offer any money, office, position, place, employment, influence, or any other valuable consideration for a delegate, elector, or other person. In your view, what does that rule in and what does it rule out?
Well, I'm not going to get into all the arcane nature of the various laws. We have our lawyers. They've told us what we can do, what we can't do. We understand that. We're not violating any rules. We've played by the rules the whole time. And we've got a delegate program. We understand how to do it. People are coming on board the Trump campaign now who have experience in this process. We're building our networks out. And I want to point something out that you stressed in the beginning of this interview. You talked about Ted Cruz's winning delegates. And you talked about a couple of places besides Wyoming. Those are not votes he's winning. Those are bodies he's winning. And if there's a second ballot, yes,
they may. Those bodies vote for him on the second ballot.
They may be relevant. But if there's no second ballot, it's much ado about nothing. And the point is, as your colleague again said, there are many paths for Donald Trump to 1237 before Cleveland.
But if you're so confident about getting 1237 before Cleveland, why does Mr. Trump keep complaining about the rules?
He's complaining about the system. That's the point that keeps getting lost there. He's saying we're playing to open up the process. We're trying to let voters decide, members of the Republican Party, independents, decide who the nominee should be, not the party bosses. That's the system of the 1920s, not 2016. And yes, there's history and conventions, but that history is ancient now. It's not a modern era presidency. With the world opening up the way it has, with the social media world opening up the way it has, these rules have to change, and that's what he's saying. As president and as leader of the Republican Party, what he's saying is he's going to open up the system. He's going to end the nature that rigs it and keeps the people out. That's his point. He's not blaming the chairman of the Republican Party or the RNC. He's blaming the process.
Paul Manafort, thanks very much for joining us this morning. Now let's talk